Welcome to Frosting Your Gravy, family and friends. Today I'm inviting you to join me for actually a very special recipe. How about I will give you a promise that this may be the only chili recipe that you will pull out of your recipe book whenever it's time to cook chili. How about you just take my word and follow this recipe and just do it? What if I tell you that this recipe is hiding some vegetables that you never thought you could use in a chili, and yet nobody can taste it? Nobody can pick it out and, point out that it's there, but it's there for those of us who are health conscious and try to eat a lot of vegetables for the nutrients and fiber. This is it, guys. This is my personal recipe that I've created. I've come up with it through a lot of trial, tasting, and finally this is the result, and it will not disappoint. This is not corn, guys. It looks kind of yellowish on camera, but it's a pinto bean. So yeah, would you believe it that there is celery in it, there's garden squash in it, and peppers and garden tomatoes. But don't worry, you can substitute for canned diced tomatoes if you don't have fresh tomatoes. But this recipe is the bomb because I share with you some things that I've never seen in any recipe books or magazines for a published chili recipe. Never. But just knowing what my grandma told me about tomatoes giving acidity, and what I watched my grandma add to the stews and other dishes where she used tomatoes, just based on my memory of my precious grandma, or babula as we called her. I used the same technique to offset that acidity of all the tomatoes. And please follow along and make this chili in your kitchens. And guys, this is just a bomb. I don't know, I don't want to sing an ode to chili obviously and like overpraise it. All I can say is that it's really really good. Really good. There are a couple of things in it that will surprise you, like, in a chili. But trust me, yes, just follow it. One ingredient I highly recommend swapping in a chili recipe is an onion. Instead of a regular onion, use a leek. Leek has such a delicious garlicky hint that lingers, that aroma, that is just, I don't know, to me it's a perfect addition to a chili recipe. Here you go. I diced up my leek, and I'm probably going to use a half, and it doesn't really matter if I use the lighter or the darker part of the stems. I just need to use an equivalent of one large onion. And my next ingredient is not a substitute, it's an addition. Whenever squash is in season in the garden and I have an abundance, I put squash in the chili. And these are from our garden, and how much you put is completely up to you. One is honestly plenty, but because I am a big promoter of fiber in our meals, I will use two small. These are not humongous. They look big, but they're not really big. So this is yellow squash. It is necessary, at least for me, to peel them so there's no tough skins left. And another thing that's I highly recommend is cubing it very tiny. That way you can blend them in your chili with the meat flavors and the beans, and your picky eaters can never pull it out and say, "Mom, what's this?" Because they will blend with the beans. They will add nutritious value. They will add fiber, of course, but nobody will be able to single it out and question, why did you put veggies in our chili, mommy? So I'm going to try and cube it the same size as kidney beans, soaked kidney beans, which means very, very small. And here's the squash, and this is how tiny I cube it. Literally the size of peas or those kidney beans or smaller. My next ingredient is completely optional, but I do like adding it to chili. It's just a couple of stalks of celery. It just looks like a lot, but it's not. I just cut them into really, really thin strips, and then I'm going to chop it up, basically cube it fine cubes. And here's the celery, cubed super, super, super tiny. And I recommend skipping the celery leaves. Don't add them because we're trying to be sneaky here and add some veggies to our chili to kind of hide them, so picky kids would not be fussy being able to detect what we've added. So celery leaves definitely have that very distinct flavor, and the stems are milder, so we're going to just not do the leaves. My next ingredient that I highly recommend putting in chili is poblano peppers, 1 or 2, that's up to you. Remember, poblano peppers are they have heat, right, a little bit, but they're very mild in comparison to other spicy peppers. They add that just very delicious flavor without adding excessive heat. They add spice, but it's not unbearable. They're just perfect, especially if you have kids eating chili, or people in your family that just have heat sensitivities. These are perfect, and I'm going to cube them as small as I did the celery. Here is the poblano peppers diced. 14.5-ounce can of diced tomatoes, undrained with liquid. And because I have fresh garden tomatoes, I'm going to dice up these tomatoes with the juices that are in them to be about an equivalent of a large can of tomatoes. But if you don't have them, of course, skip and simply use can. And here's my diced tomatoes. I placed them next to celery because they will go in the pot at the same time. Heat up your large cooking pot where you are planning to cook your chili, and add 2-3 tablespoons of oil on the bottom just to lightly cover the bottom of your pot and heat it up. And if we think about cooking chili, everything in our chili obviously boils, right? Well, when you're an experienced cook, you know that some foods just simply don't taste good boiled. For example, boiled squash. Do you like it? I personally think it's yuck. Boiled onions, yuck. Boiled peppers, I don't like it. So what I do, my little trick to really boost up the flavor of my chili, is these ingredients that don't taste good boiled, I pre-fry them before adding the rest of the ingredients, which will be boiling. Now this will be boiling all together with the meat and with these tomatoes and everything, but when you pre-fry them, it completely changes the texture and the flavor. And you will never, if you haven't tried this before, I promise you will not want to go back to putting everything in a pot and boiling method of cooking that chili. So into the hot oil in a pot, I will sand all of my squash, all of these peppers, and all of the leeks, or if you don't have leeks, this will be 1 onion. First, leeks. Next, diced poblano peppers. and squash. On medium-high heat, I'm going to fry these ingredients. Not saute, but this needs to be more on high heat. We need to give this a quick frying. It'll help open up the flavor of these ingredients, and we will not get that yucky boiled taste of these veggies in our final chili. It'll be the bomb. So my heat is high, and stirring occasionally. I will fry it quickly on all sides. After a few minutes of frying, you will notice that squash cubes start changing their color to a beautiful light golden, and this is perfect. And as you can see, all the bubbles, it's actually like actively frying. This is all we need at this stage. And of course I've been stirring occasionally, and at this stage we add 2 pounds of hamburger meat. Here's my 2 pounds of ground beef. Crumble it up and cook on medium heat until the hamburger is no longer pink. Mixing occasionally and stirring. Here we go. Hamburger meat is crumbled up and slowly browning. Now is a good time to season your meat according to your taste. Just lightly salt and pepper and stir. And now that the hamburger is browned, time to add the rest of the ingredients. Into the pot, I'm sanding diced tomatoes. I'm doing garden tomatoes that are diced up with the juices, or you can do one 14.5 ounce can of diced tomatoes from the store, and 1.5 stalks of celery, diced really small, as I showed you earlier. Next ingredient is 2 cans. This is a 15-ounce size of tomato sauce. I have different brands, but it's okay, it doesn't matter. We just need 2 cans of tomato sauce. And once my cans are empty, I add a little bit of water to the can and swoosh. That way I get everything, no waste. Next is about 3/4 of this little 6-ounce can of tomato paste, not all of it. So 1/2 to 3/4 of a can. 1 14.5 ounce can of beef broth. Yeah, that was the tomato paste I've just added. And next ingredient is for the classic chili is red kidney beans. And for the 2 pounds of meat, we need 2 16-ounce cans. The ratio of meat to beans for the classic chili is, for each pound of meat, you use 1 16-ounce can of red kidney beans. However, to make it more budget friendly, because dried beans cost less than canned beans, I always soak my beans overnight. So the ratio to substitute dry beans for the canned beans is 3/4 of a cup of dry beans for each can of beans that your recipe calls for. And right here I have 3 different varieties. I have kidney beans. I have these smaller ones right there are pinto beans, and the white ones are, and goodness, I forgot, but it's a mix of 3 beans for even more flavorful chili. I'm going to use more basically than the 2 cans of beans that's supposed to be in the recipe, and I'm going to use more beans. However, you don't have to. And I've added 3 cups of dried beans total. That's my preference. And the final ingredient is the chili seasoning. I'm not usually spending time measuring out cumin and chili powder, peppers, and all of that. I prefer to just use store-bought, where everything has already been measured out, perfect proportions. Use your trusted brand of chili seasoning mix. Everything is completely perfect in it for me, so that's what I use. And how much of it to use, please read the back of your seasoning mix. So each of these packets is calculated for 1 pound of ground beef, because today I'm cooking with 2 pounds of ground beef. Obviously, 2 of these chili seasoning mixes are going in. And optionally, crushed red pepper, just a small shaking, literally, like, that's it, because I have some in our family who don't like spicy food. And also, I should mention that optionally you can add a can or 2 of mushrooms, and you can leave just a large stems and pieces if that's what you like, or I like to dice them up small. But today I don't have any on hand, so unfortunately I'm skipping mushrooms, but I highly recommend adding mushrooms to your chili. If you're using fresh, please pre-fry them at the stage where we fried the leeks and squash and poblano peppers. At that stage, when we're frying everything in oil, mushrooms need to go there, because boiled mushrooms, again, are just yucky to me. Or if you're using canned, then right here with beans at this stage, it's perfect and actually really yummy. And now it's time to stir everything up and add some more liquid. I'm going to add water, and I'm going to allow for all of this to come to a boil. Once I see active boiling, active bubbling, I will put the lid on and simmer it on low for 45 minutes to an hour, until the beans are completely cooked through. If you're using canned beans, it'll be done in probably about 40 minutes. I will add just a little bit more water to cover. And almost forgot, something that I've learned from Mr. Gravy, from my Papa Bear, is to add a little bit of black peppercorns when making chili. And I've tried the chili that he makes, and it's so good. That's it. About, 7, 8 peppercorns. And it is now boiling, which means that I'm going to put the lid on, reduce heat, and finish cooking it until it's done. Alright guys, and halfway through our cooking, I am adding my 2 secret ingredients. Secret ingredient number 1, sugar. 2 tablespoons of sugar. And this is simply to offset all of the acidity and sourness of the tomatoes that are in it. Actually, I'm sorry, 1.5 tablespoons. 2 tablespoons will be way too much. So 1.5 tablespoons of sugar went in. And my secret ingredient number 2, cinnamon, half a teaspoon. Cinnamon goes really, really well with beans, with meat, tomatoes, basically with all of the other ingredients. And because it's only half a teaspoon, you will never taste specifically cinnamon. Nobody will be able to pick it out and say, oh, there's cinnamon in it. But there's a definite pleasant aroma that will be in this chili that people will be wondering, like, I taste something, it's kind of really good. It's familiar, but I can't place it, because it will mix with all the other seasonings that are in the chili seasoning packet. And sugar to me is a must, like I said, because of how much tomato sauce in it, garden tomatoes, cubed or diced tomato can, all of that acidity, the sugar is just a perfect balancer of that. 1.5 tablespoons. And I'm gonna let it finish cooking. It's already smelling so heavenly in my kitchen, guys. And I will show you another ingredient that I add closer to the end of making my chili. And I actually was mentioning during cooking how to make it spicier than this for those of us who love absolutely like hot, burning your mouth spicy chili. At the very end of the recipe, add how many ounces? 7 ounces, half of this can of chipotle peppers in adobo sauce. They're spicy, but the flavor of them is just superb. Like, it's amazing. These are, I don't do jalapenos when I make chili. I like these peppers. I highly recommend. But this recipe does use fresh poblanos, which have heat, but mild heat, obviously. So if you're a person that expects a lot of heat in chili, add maybe half a can of this or more based on your preferences. And of course, right here I have a Ziploc bag of cheddar cheese that I'm about to sprinkle in my bowl, and one of my daughters made fresh cornbread in a skillet that we're going to dip in this. And that's just all I'm gonna say, guys, is please make this recipe and please come back and give me thumbs up and comment and tell me what you think about the combination of flavors that I came up with. I really sincerely hope, both fingers on both hands crossed, that you will love it as much as my family loves it, and that your family will appreciate this and also ask you, hey, can you make that chili you made last month or whatever, and then it'll be a favorite in your collection of recipes. And thank you guys for watching. Please consider subscribing to our channel, give us thumbs up, and we appreciate all of you, and see you in the next one. Added cornbread and cheese. Bon appetit, everyone.